Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement podcast. I am Brad Winchester, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell-Blanken, and DC's in the house. How you guys doing?
Doing so well, Brad. DC, how you feeling, man? We're in part 3 of our 4-part Rock series.
Anytime I can talk about The Rock and be with you fellas, it's a good time for me. I'm glad to be here once again. I'm talking to The Rock.
Yeah, well, we're blessed with your presence, man. So, obviously, part 3, as we alluded to. Part 1, we discussed the greatest promos of The Rock's career. Part 2, yesterday, we discussed his most memorable feuds. And now we're getting into moments. DC, Brad and I talk often about the beauty of wrestling is really in the moments. And I think particularly with WWE over the years, this is something they've specialized in, is creating these moments that wrestling fans of all ages and backgrounds and persuasions will truly never forget. I say that as I'm looking at the Sasha Banks versus Bayley NXT Brooklyn poster. We just, there are so many moments out there. I think we're going to get one with Cody this year. Anyway, not telling you anything you don't already know. The Rock is a perfect example or case study of this. DC, the floor is yours. What are your favorite moments of The Rock's career?
So this is tougher for me because like a lot of the moments for me are similar to promos. So for me to set that apart, definitely the homecoming on Raw. I think it was 2011. The first homecoming on Raw, 2011, when he first came back. To me, because it was big for me personally, because I think you mentioned it in the last part of the series, Tyler, when you said that you lost your love for wrestling for a little bit and you kind of got out of it. So I did the same thing around like 2010. So I graduated high school in 2009, and I started a year in college and then had a kid. My oldest, my first year into college. So 2010, my first was born, and just changed things, life changes. And it wasn't that I lost my love for wrestling. I just wasn't watching the product.
Yeah. You had a whole,
yeah,
I was too
busy.
Life you had diapers to change, my man.
Yeah, I had diapers to change, man. I had stuff to do. So like, and like, I don't even think I had cable back then, man. I was broke. I was
that was before Peacock and the network.
Yeah, we didn't have all that.
To your point, not only a different time of year, but a different time, just media wise.
Yeah. So like around there, I kind of lost the love for it for about a year. And then I just randomly, literally this one random night, I turn on Monday Night Raw and The Rock comes out. I'm like, out of all nights for The Rock to return tonight? And like, it just, growing up in the Attitude Era, and obviously this is in the midst of his Hollywood career. Like, dude's in like every movie, like every year around this time. He wasn't even near the wrestling world. And like, it just hit for me a little bit different just because I wasn't watching. And the one random night I decided to watch one of my favorite wrestlers of all time returns. And it was just life-changing for me. Like that, for me, that was a big moment that, ranks in my history. In 2011, his return to Raw. Another moment that, I have to go back to, I really enjoyed. So we talked a little bit about Ken Shamrock and that feud. So in that feud, I don't know if you guys remember, I forget which WrestleMania it was, but it was it ended up being the first time that we heard The Rock say, "If you smell what I'm cooking," in 1997.
Yes.
That created what we didn't even, and at the time we're like, what did he say? Like, what is he talking about? Like, and obviously, like, it just took off since then. Like, it was just moments like that. The first time he said that, I'm trying to remember which WrestleMania it was. It was 1997. Look, I'm terrible with numbers, so think of the year that was. But those are the two moments that stick away with me. And then, honestly, his recent return.
Yeah.
Like it just, in a time where we understood, obviously, like, because when he first came back, there was a strike and people weren't acting, they weren't writing, there was nobody doing any new TV shows, no movies. So like, while the timing made sense, you still didn't think that The Rock would ever come back. Like, he's not gonna. We were hearing the rumors, but we're like, yeah, he's never gonna come back. Why? He doesn't need to come back for what? And he comes back this last time on SmackDown, and it just. I think that also has to go down as one of my biggest moments as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a big moment. What surprised me is that we talked about it. It's a huge moment for him that people were super upset with, right? Like it's what a moment. And also, why? Why now? We've been begging for this for years and you picked now when it's the worst time. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And now looking back, it's like, all right, this makes sense. Look at what this build has done. Look at where it pushed him to go in
Mm-hmm.
his promos and his social media presence. Absolutely amazing. So I have a few. I like you. A lot of the moments I think of are the promo moments, but I think of one of my favorite moments is The Rock throwing Stone Cold off the bridge into the river when they were beefing, when he took the smoking skull belt, which I think was a throwback to the IC title when Stone Cold had to give it up, and I think McMahon just named him the IC champion. So he threw it off off the bridge into the river in Detroit, I believe, and they ran it back when instead of the belt, it was Stone Cold going over into the water. I loved that. I think one of my favorite moments is because of how terrible it is. And it's not all moments are good. It's the I Quit match with
Mm.
Mick Foley. Those chair shots were so uncomfortable to watch. Watching it back, I was like, this is bad. And then hearing like I guess those last several hits of the chair weren't planned. And he got Mick pretty good. But it's gotta be Rock. This is your life. It has to be the This Is Your Life segment. It's more of a Mankind segment than it is a Rock segment, but it was what, like 25 minutes of birthday balloons and coaches and him making pie references and just absolute anarchy. It's maybe one of my favorite segments in WWE history. It has to be up there for me. It's so memorable and so good. I'm going to say that's my personal favorite moment.
I got three written down, fellas. The first one is a callback to earlier in our series. Brad, you mentioned the August 9th, 1999 Raw debut of Chris Jericho. And obviously, The Rock was instrumental in that. It was fantastic on the mic. We spoke about this earlier, but to me, that was one of the most memorable moments. And it showed how well The Rock played off his peers. And obviously that set up a great feud, and we were invested once again. Second one for me, I'm honestly low-key shocked I didn't hear this from either of you guys. The match versus Hulk Hogan, more specifically the moment of them staring at each other and then looking at the crowd. I believe this was WrestleMania 18. I had that like ingrained in my mind. I remember very little about the match itself. I just remember the face-off in the middle of the ring, and then one, looks at one side of the crowd, pause, looks at the other. It's like, oh, these guys are just cooking. Like they have us in the palm of their hands. That's huge for me. And then finally, DC, you've been highlighting how special The Rock's return has been. I remember when Jinder Mahal closed Raw. They were advertising that a former WWE champ was going to be on the show. So I even remember Brad and I talking about, like, is it going to be Andrade? Is it going to be Sasha Banks, now the artist known as Mercedes Moné? Like, who's this going to be? Braun Strowman? And it ended up being The Rock. He interrupted him. It was a very pro USA promo, which is not necessarily my my favorite kind of promos, but to do such a 180, we started his return with that, and to fast forward all these months later to see where we're at now, to think about me seeing him live for the first time. My final moment here is him opening the show in Glendale. It was just, pun intended, it was electric. Like seeing the presence when he just emanates in the arena, seeing crowd reactions to him, seeing how in control he is of every moment. His improvisational skills, which you both have touched on, in part one and part two of our series here, it's been phenomenal. And I love that the three of us have taken time to spotlight moments throughout his career. It's not like, oh, he just had a good year, or he had a great 3-year window. Like, guys, from 97 all the way to 2024, it's just full of special moments. He's on my Mount Rushmore easily.
There's two more that I wanted to mention. I just didn't remember the exact moments. Like I can't remember the exact year or exact time, but when he joined the corporation, was another one
Yes.
that I remember. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I remember watching
It
that.
had to have
live,
been
and I'm
it had to have been around 99 because
Yeah.
it was like he was taking off as a baby face and then
Yeah.
they shut it down.
It just threw
Yeah.
us all,
Yes.
threw everybody off. He joins Vince McMahon and those guys and just created the heel rock, that beginning of the heel rock we get today. And the debut of the Hollywood Rock theme, I don't remember when that was either, but I remember hearing that intro. I'm like, this is way better than the original song. So
Really?
I love the Hollywood Rock theme.
You were feeling it
I
instantly.
was feeling it, especially like the new one now too, like the way they combine both of them. But the original Hollywood Rock theme, the first time, for me, it was just like, this is what I'm talking about.
With the helicopter.
Yeah.
Yes.
That long Titantron intro.
Yeah,
like,
I love that. I loved it so much.
It's so good. Brad, I didn't want to cut you off. I have one more thing to say, but you got something cooking over there.
No, I got
to smell
nothing.
what you're cooking.
I got nothing. I was looking it up. It was 1998 when he joined the corporation,
Okay.
and it looked like it was 2003 when Hollywood Rock debuted, which makes sense timeline wise that he would come back. I love that version of the Rock so much. When he first came back and was like a cartoon character, just his over the top everything was so good, and I think he's blended that really well with his earlier persona. And we're getting that now. It's that same over the top stuff, but with that kind of angrier, edgier version of the Rock from the late 90s. Really cool.
For sure. My final one is a little bit silly, but I'm really invested in how the Rock has taken the like point to my goosebumps on my forearm. Like that. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's like my favorite moment in wrestling now. I'll go, this is ridiculous, but I was going to keep it honest with you guys. Like I'll go into meetings now if I have like a big presentation or a big whatever at work. And I'm like, and no one's watching, of course. I'm getting no pop at all. But just to myself, I'll just do my little like, let's go. Like I'm ready for this moment.
Let's do this.
Let's do this thing, man. The Rock is just what a great career full of I think moments that we won't forget for a long, long time.
I have a confession. So I did that backstage this week, right before we started.
Get out.
Wednesday.
I'm not alone.
Opening night.
It's
the music started playing, like the lights went down. I gave the thumbs up, and then the orchestra started playing. I gave it from backstage. Go ahead. We're good. Ready stage left, ready stage right, ready on lights, ready in sound. Go ahead. And it started playing. And I turned and I looked at one of them and I went. And they looked at me. And one of the kids goes, "We know you're white. Stop." Like that was it. That was it. That's what I got from that. They thought that's what I was trying to hit home. I'm like, we're doing a musical in medieval France called Once Upon a Mattress. And your takeaway is I'm white. All right, I got you. Thank you. Thank you.
They don't watch the product. That's okay.
No, DC
and I got your back.
I had
bro.
no idea what I was doing there, but
We got you, Brad.
We know
it was
the
for
vibes.
me. It was for me.
That's hilarious. I'm glad we're on the same page. Guys, I think we've been on the same page all week with this series. This is tremendous. We are getting ready. We are on the brink of our finale. Tomorrow, we will be discussing the film and television career of The Rock. It is a conversation you will not want to miss. DC, thank you so much for being here. If you are listening or watching right now, thank you so much for joining us, and tune in tomorrow. We'll see you soon.